Sometimes things can take more time to do than a normal sighted person will do things. Personally, for me, it's also that I use a lot of energy when I go on the streets, and sometimes also if there's some obstacles on my way.
29-year-old Michael Starholm has been living on his own for 3 years in a small apartment in Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark. Even though he has never seen his flat because he was born blind, Michael knows every corner of his home. But despite that, some obstacles keep appearing from time to time. We asked him to show us those that are challenging him the most.
Sometimes it's difficult to find the expiry date of the milk. Sometimes I ask a seeing assistant if I have someone in near of me, but I think there's no so much focus on that problematic from the fabricants.
Such obstacles could possibly be eliminated on a political level. In Europe, the most powerful decision maker seems to be the European Union, which could come up with a law that would then apply to all its member states. But according to Ask Abelgaard from the Danish Association of the Blind, not much has happened during the past years.
I don't think the European Union is doing enough, but that's a general question of policymakers in Europe. You could say, well, to simplify a bit, the European Union and what is happening in terms of policy making is a result of what the member states can agree on. So if there is a will among member states to improve the situation, of course things can be done.
Another obstacle shows up when Michael goes on the streets. Not every traffic light is made in a way that helps blind people to safely cross busy roads. Michael has to pass through such place every time he needs to get in town, which means that he can easily find himself in the middle of a quite dangerous situation.
The problem with this traffic light is probably that the sound on this side of the light is a little bit lower than on the other side. So it's sometimes difficult to me to hear. Also when there's some heavy traffic driving directly in front of that, it's the meaning that the sound should be higher if there's more noise here.
What we could imagine would be to say, okay, we work out a European standard for traffic lights, and in that standard we include acoustic signals for people who are blind or otherwise visually impaired. That's not the situation now.
Besides being on the streets, another hard thing for visually impaired people is to find a job. Michael used to have an internship for 3 years in a telemarketing company called All Ears, where he didn't need to use his sight to work. 60% of this company's employees are visually impaired people who are being trained in sales and customer service so that their disabilities are here being turned into an advantage. But not many employers think in the same way.
Oh, it can be very difficult because some of the companies don't know what it means to have a blind person in the company. So often when they hear I'm blind, they say no because they think it's too difficult to have blind people in the company.
During his internship in All Ears, Michael met many other people with disabilities. One of them was telemarketing consultant Jackie Hansen, who was giving Michael advice on how to improve himself. Jackie agrees with Michael's opinion.
Der har aldrig været politisk pres. Udfordringerne for blinde og svagtseende med at finde arbejde på almindelige vilkår, eller hvad man skal sige, er jo, at der er rigtig mange fordomme. Der er rigtig mange, som ikke har kendskab til, hvilke hjælpemidler der er, i forhold til, at man kan gå ind og kompensere for synet. Det er nok klart den allerstørste udfordring, der er derude.
The Danish Association of the Blind also claims that employers don't have enough information when it comes to hiring blind or partially sighted people.
What we see is a lack of knowledge among potential employers, and that's something that should be improved, definitely. We can play a role as disability organization, and the public authorities can play a role in terms of providing the needed support, for example, assistive technology and personal assistance where that is needed.
An inclusive society where all people have the same opportunities This is the aim of the European Accessibility Act that the European Parliament voted for in September. Through this new directive, many products and services should become more accessible for handicapped people, including the blind. But isn't this decision coming a bit late? We asked Sabine Verheyen, a German politician from the European Parliament, who was included in the process of this act.
The Accessibility Act is just one part of a whole package that started in 2010, 2 years after this agreement of the ministers of the member states to enforce accessibility. The Commission started with different packages step by step. I hope that in the next 4 or 5 years, there will be many, many steps forward to a better accessibility for people, especially who are blind or deaf or hard of hearing.
The European Accessibility Act, besides focusing on public transportation, mainly wants to make phones, ticketing machines and banking services more accessible. However, it doesn't impose detailed technical solutions, it only outlines what needs to be done. But there are also some topics like the low level of sound of traffic lights, which are not included in this directive. We wanted to hear Sabine Verheyen's opinion on this fact.
That is still a big problem, I see that. But it's not a question of the Accessibility Act. These things must be, when it's on the European level, organized in the regulations on traffic. The special question of traffic lights, it's up to the member states to do something in this field because it's their competence. We cannot say that they have to do it.
It is now up to the Parliament and the Council to negotiate about the proposed legislation. But because some topics are not included, Michael will still need his assistant Fleming. He helps Michael with things like shopping, but they also have fun together. They started making live videos on Michael's Facebook profile. Fleming knows that besides the lack of accessible devices, there are many other obstacles that Michael can't overcome by himself.
Michael knows the area he lives in, like local area, but as soon as we move away from things he doesn't know, it's a big problem for him. It's in many situations, from toilets to whatever, where the places are new for him. So that's important to help him.
I like Fleming as a person and he likes me too, and we are doing a lot of things together, and it's mean a lot of good things to me that we are together. I hope that the politicians will listen more to what we are saying and what our problems is, and when we are saying something is an obstacle, I will wish that they will do something and not as it is now, just say we will find out and nothing happened.